Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, on Android, Spotify, or the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Recommend streaming us on Spotify for now on either platform. A little bit quicker getting up than Apple Podcasts. Also, check out great sponsors. The Five Reasons Sports Network includes our friends over at Prize Picks. We're continuing to run our competition. Okay, here's what has to happen here. I know it's a little complicated, but use the code 5. Put down your $5. You get $50 to play. You new user, we're giving that to you, okay? But additionally, myself, Brady, Alex, and Greg are having game by game competitions where we're playing $20 each during the NBA Finals. I can give you the standings right now because I enjoy giving these. In last place, Brady Hawk was $0, won. Alex Toledo, $8. Greg has $82.50, and I have 90. Go on the Five Reasons Twitter account. It's be pinned to the top. Pick your fighter. Should have been picking me. And then if you get that correctly, we're going to give you more additional promotional funds. So that's how it works. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down your 5, get 50 to play right away. We'll tell you about Off the Floor after we get to this. But now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah. Mercy and Lago, down in Biscayne. Yay. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds. Down in Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the Five Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Oh, that's still there. Look at that. Prize Picks. Use the code 5. Welcome back to today's episode. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Bryan Fonseca. You can follow him at Bryan Fonseca NY. And we've got Eternal Bast. You can follow him at Eternal Bast. Today's floor plan, I sprung this on them right before the episode started. So this is what we're going to do today. We are going to assume that each of us is a member of the Miami Heat front office. We'll all be kicked out in the first day. And we can only keep 5 Heat players going forward. Now, contracts matter. Contracts matter. It can't just be 5 guys we like. Can't just be about playing style. Has to be about contract, and also has to take into account the ease of moving these other players if we need to build the best possible roster. We know that the Heat can go a couple of different directions right now. We've told them to pick a direction. It's not all their say, though, or they're doing, because they're dependent in some ways on whether some of these other teams get involved for players that they may want, or if some of these players stay put, as it seems like Giannis may be inclined to do in Milwaukee. It's not a huge surprise if that's what ends up happening. And of course, Kevin Durant, which we've had guests on the podcast saying the Heat aren't going to have much competition for him, and now it seems like the entire league is in on him. So a lot of things are going to change over the course of time. The one thing we do believe, and I think we all believe this, and this has come from also credible reporters like Zach Lowe and Brian Windhorst and Mark Stein, there's going to be a lot of activity, and it's going to start early. A lot of it has to do with teams trying to get under the second apron. Eternal and I will probably do another episode on that, on players that the Heat may be able to poach as some of those teams are trying to get under the second apron. Of course, the aprons are concerned for the Heat as well. And if they can't get star players, they may just try to get under the tax so they don't pay the repeater tax this year. But we're all allowed to pick 5 players, okay? I have a feeling we may overlap on some. But, Brian, we'll do this one by one. I'll let you start. Give me one guy you're keeping. You can only keep 5.
People will roll their eyes that I'm going to start with Bam, but I'm starting with Bam. I don't give a shit.
Okay. I mean, I'm not, because
I don't care. Like, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you know, if you're doing, like, a lot of people don't understand the value of having him there. He's the only guy with a playoff resume on this entire roster for a team that doesn't want to tank, won't tank, at least today. with 80-year-old Pat Riley, like, yeah, they're keeping Bam, and so would I, because he's the most complimentary number 2 maybe in the league, maybe. So if you're out looking for a number 1, and to me, your number 1 for a true contender is not currently on your roster, then you need somebody to complement that number 1, which he can do better than basically anybody else in a number 2 spot, because he can do all he does on defense, do all he does from a playmaking perspective, has the responsibility of setting up others instead of generating offense himself, and still manages to get roughly 20 and 10 and 5 a game or whatever it is. Now adding a 3-point shot, by the way. Also, he did this with Jimmy Butler. And stylistically, Jimmy Butler is one of the worst players to complement Bam, or for Bam to complement rather, because they occupy the same area offensively and all these things we talked about. They didn't pass to each other a ton and whatever. And they still figured out a way to make it work and go to multiple finals and another conference finals. And they both had success doing it. They did have chemistry on defense, and that was a big part of it. Like defensively, seeing them play together, like there were times where it was absolutely magical. But from an offensive perspective, it shouldn't have worked. So if you find somebody who's the true number 1 in that top 30, so to speak, if you want to use the ringer rankings, although I think you'll probably need someone better than the top 30. You'll need like a top 20, 15 type of dude. But he'll complement basically all of those dudes, even some bigs, if you wanted to go stray away from maybe somebody else who's in my top 5. But he can complement a lot of stars in the league. And he's on a market value contract. So I keep Bam.
Right. Dude, I can't go to you on this one. I'm muted. We'll go around with a player that somebody picks. You'll go first next time, but let's talk about Bam here. Are you keeping Bam? Now you're on mute.
I knew I was on mute. I was trying to get off, but
Yes.
absolutely right. Like I mean, to all the points that Brian said, and also too, I think one thing that we kind of undervalue, especially in today's league, he is a low maintenance player, right? He is the player that you want in your locker room. He is the player that you want on and off the court. So I mean, there's dividends to having Bam, just besides all the amazing things that he does for you, exceptionally on one end of the court, and some of the slightly above average things that he gives you on the other end. He's just a ultimate glue guy, from his play and also in the locker room. And I think that's super valuable in what you need as far as building a contended team. And also he's been through the fire. Like he's been to the mountaintop. He just hasn't succeeded in getting the final thing. And I think so you can't undervalue all of that experience, especially at his young age. So I think Bam is a super easy pick.
Yeah, and I'll go there too. I mean, look, we can explore possibilities and say who you would move him for.
Right,
And
right.
I think my list is probably a little longer than some in the networks. If you haven't got a chance, listen to the episode that Greg and Alex did because they worked through all of that. I would be more open to
It
putting him
seems
on
so
the table.
painful for Greg too.
It really was, and yeah, Alex made him do 46 minutes when I told him just do 20. So he really strung it out. That was like 2.5 episodes. So that's why Alex deserves to be in third place in our contest right now. But I can't make the case that you look at 5 players on this roster and you're not keeping Bam, even at the cost. I just because, and it's a lot of what Brian said about him being complimentary to pretty much anybody they bring in. Now his salary makes it more complicated for them to bring in a player of, say, more offensive quality than him. But
Unless you move some other parts.
right, which I think we're going to get
We still
to.
got we still got 4 more players to do.
No, I know we do. Maybe I'll go next, and then I'll have Eternal go, and then we'll rotate around. I'll do that. So I'm keeping Bam. We're all keeping Bam. I'm taking Davion Mitchell. I'm keeping Davion Mitchell, and it's for a lot of the same reasons we're talking about Bam. In that, A, this is a defense first organization. We know that. B, I think there's more to tap into this offensive game. I'm not saying he's going to be an offensive star, but I don't think we're going to have the regression to the so-called mean that people are expecting. I think he found some comfort spots with the Heat last year. The shot is not broken. It's not what I was expecting when they acquired him, when we were hearing he was the worst offensive player in the league a couple seasons ago. The effort and the energy you're going to get. And this is why I'm doing this. I've been covering the Panthers lately. Okay. Davion Mitchell is the one guy on the Heat who belongs on the Panthers. Like literally.
I love
Like
that.
they are relentless. They are relentless. 4 lines in your face. No question about effort. They pick each other up. And I'm saying that guy on this roster is number 1 right now. In that regard, like I just want a guy who's gonna play hard all the time, like just play hard all the time, no questions about it, doesn't think twice about it, gonna bust every screen. That is, I was incredibly impressed, and he stuck out to such a degree on this team that's one of the things they need to evaluate, because the Panthers are more Heat than the Heat are right now, and so I'm looking at Davion Mitchell and I'm saying, okay, do I want to pay him $15 million a year? No, we had that episode. Do I think it's going to get to that? No, I think it's going to be somewhere in the $12 million range. I could be wrong, but I think it'll probably be around 12. But I'm keeping Davion Mitchell because he'll fit with any roster they put together. He'll be one of their top 8 with any roster. I'm not saying he has to be a regular starter, but he could. And if they end up getting stars, he will complement them. And if they end up just being a gritty, sort of scrappy bunch, he'll fit on that too. So I'm keeping Davion. Are either of you keeping Davion or both?
Yeah, I'm keeping Davion. I think the contract will be manageable. I've said this too, and for all the same reasons. I think he can spot start. I think he can be your 6th man, 7th man, maybe 8th man on a really good team. But I think he should be in the top 7. And I think he's your 3rd guard. He's going to have to spot start because injuries happen and things of that nature. If you're in a season you're in a position next season where he has to start because you can't necessarily upgrade at point guard, I think that can be fine too, depending on what else the roster looks like. I think he can manage for a full season. We have to remember he was drafted very high a few years ago. He was in Sacramento, and Sacramento's a shit organization. And he was in Toronto, where they decided they're terrible. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They went to the playoffs once, and they just they're like, oh, you know what? We're gonna do what the Bulls did in the Eastern Conference. Let's just do that. It's stupid. If I was Sabonis, I would have been asked out. And then if you look at just the Raptors situation, he wasn't the guard of preference there. They paid Emmanuel quickly. They paid all these other dudes. They have investments into younger prospects. It's like he was the odd man out, so it wasn't going to work there anyway, and they weren't going to re-sign him anyway. I actually think getting him in that Jimmy Butler trade was smart because now he's somebody that they can keep ideally at a manageable number. We'll see if he gets the reported $14 million a year or something along those lines, but $14 million a year would be like 4 for 56, 3 for 42. I don't think it's that outrageous, but if you get him for less, then I think that's a good thing, manageable thing as well. And if you want to look way into the future, the contract that you would likely keep him at is tradable, or would be tradable. So that's another reason too.
Eternal, you keeping him?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you're talking about building a team for success, which is what Miami Heat want to do, regardless if you're going young or if you're going for contention or anything like that, I think he just helps with that, just get it all nature that he has. And I think you need that in a locker room. And I think, from what I've seen, I'm sure you can attest to that as well, Ethan. He's very likable. It's very hard not to like him with his energy that he comes with. He's going to play hard. He's going to do what the coaches ask. There's some things he probably needs to clean up as well. But that's what you want, whether you have a young point guard that you are bringing up, or if you have a starting guard in front of him, or if he's just a placeholder. He's kind of perfect for all three, honestly. And if you can get him at a number, which I think the Heat can. I know Brian was talking about the Nets and the connection there, but I do think Miami should be able to get him at a reasonable price, and you just can't lose because it works out in your favor either way, right? He's young. It's not like he's old. He's young. You get him on a reasonable contract. If you find yourself in a similar position next season where you're either at the bottom of the conference or you're in the middle of the conference, right? Then you're not in a position where you're in a rush because of his age, where we have to capitalize on this right now. So you could stave off a season, like Brian was saying in another episode.
All right, so we're gonna get to number 3 here, and then we'll get to the break. But just so for contractual purposes here, as we're building a team, remember Bam's deal next year, $37 million. Then it goes to 51, 55, 59. in the 28-29 season. Davion Mitchell, we're assuming a starting point of around 12 million, something along those lines, maybe a 3-year deal that would take him maybe to Bam's timeline. Actually, if you look at how this plays out, maybe the end of the 29 season or 28 season. Okay, number 3 here, Turtle. Before we go to the quick break here, who's your third?
I think my third would be Kel'el Ware.
Yeah.
I think, when you look at even just the start of January, like from January on, he led all rookies in doubles. He led the rookies in a few categories, top 5 in a lot of those categories. And I think, just the on-court chemistry between him and Bam was growing as the season went on. The coaches, every time I talk to them, I'm sure you guys can attest to this as you talk to them as well. They constantly talk about, first thing out of their mouth is how willing he is to learn, how much, information he absorbs. He's easily coachable. He takes something and then immediately, act on it. They push him hard because they expect a lot out of him. And I think he outplayed his draft position once he was able to, earn the trust of the coaches. And Bam thinks very, very highly of him. I mean, even in his presser, he talked about begging Spo early on in the season to give the kid minutes. So I think as you go on, especially as we see the league trending bigger, we saw this a couple of seasons ago, it's here now. Every team is trying to take advantage of being a versatile roster with functional sizes. Mike Malone said a couple of seasons ago, but I think you continue to build it, especially after what he showed you as a rookie, going into next season, having a full offseason with Bam and the coaching staff to continue to develop.
Brian,
and the rookie contract.
Yeah, well, the rookie contract certainly helps. I'm going to go through that real quick here. Drafted 15th overall last year, so contract he's on 4.4 million next year, 4.6 the year after, 7.1 the year after, and then he'd be a restricted free agent with a qualifying offer after that. I'm going to say I would keep him too, although I'm a little torn on it, and only for this reason. I'm just not sold on the kind of starting lineup that they're going to be able to build with him and Bam. I'm just not 100% there. Like I think as we're starting to fill out our 5 here, not to say that they have to be the 5 starters, but they're going to be 5 core players for the team. I'm thinking, okay, Davion, like I said, I don't think there's going to be huge regression down, but I don't think you're expecting him to be a volume spacer. And Bam, kind of the same. Again, he made progress in that area. And then Ware's going to take some time there. So I do think, like, if you're leaning into this, you're leaning into this. Like, and it really affects the 2 other potential starting spots here. The contract, though, means, yes, I would try to build with him. Would I make him a deal breaker if I could get a superstar? No. That's where maybe I differ from some in our group. Even though I've said his rookie season statistically and in other ways was better than Bam's. And so if we said that Bam grew into a multi-time Olympian gold medalist and all-star under the Heat's tutelage, then Ware certainly has the potential in some areas to do some of that. Brian, would you keep him?
Absolutely. The rookie contract has a lot to do with it. He averaged 15 and 12 per 36 minutes as a rookie, which I'm not sure how many dudes are doing that. I try to ask ChatGPT, but they're not giving me a straight answer. Kel'el Ware, I do think he's somebody you build with at this stage. I don't suspect that he's going to have the same type of regression that some other all rookie guys do have in their second years. Not to mention somebody on this roster in particular, but like it does happen in the NBA. If you look at some of the past all rookie honorees, some of them completely fall off after 1 year, and some of them fall off and bounce back, and some of them never fall off and keep getting better. So it varies. We'll see what type of Kel'el Ware we get. I do think Bam and Ware is worth investing in for at least this upcoming season, because 1, I'm not sure what your better alternative is, but 2, I am seeing progress from the 2 of them play together, and I see the vision of what it could be. as long as one or both of them are able to be respectable from three. Like if they could develop an actual 5-out look that can be a plus on the plus minus side, then yes, I think that that's a lineup that you can run out there with. He's somebody who at some point of his career, he's going to walk into double doubles frequently, maybe even next season. I think there could come a point where if he continues to develop, like there's a non-zero chance he's walking into 15 points and 11 rebounds per game, not just per 36 minutes. I know I said 12 earlier, 12 is just a lot. But like Kel'el Ware can put up those type of numbers because he's one of these type of dudes who could just walk into those numbers. What you don't want is for him to walk into those type of numbers and have no impact like somebody else that walked into those type of numbers who was here in the past. So I think they need him to also impact winning. Not that he doesn't,
Yeah.
but it's going to be important to do, especially if you're playing with Bam. But if he could have positive minutes with Bam Adebayo, that's really the test. And if he could have positive minutes with Bam, then I think the two could be here to stay as a tandem. And you mentioned Davion, if he signs for 3 years, he and Bam would basically be essentially in lockstep contractually. Kel'el Ware has 3 years left on his rookie deal. So I think that would apply to him too at this stage.
All right, yeah, and I think these are all good reasons. And I think the question is how we fill out the rest of this. So we'll do that on the other side. Before we do, if you want to argue this and more with us, the place for the most heat, conversation, information, and more is Off the Floor. Check it out. Link right here in the description. You bypass the Apple upcharge, pay $2.99 a month. You get access to 10 different channels, stage shows, and more. We got people going all day long there. Get off of Twitter. At least let us bring you the stuff you're interested in from there, so you don't need to deal with the rest. We post it all there all day long. Again, check it out. It is Off the Floor. Link in the description. All right. So for number 4 here, Brian, I will let you lead.
There's somebody else I think worth talking about. A couple other people I think worth talking about, but we could save that for the end because I know at least one of you, maybe both of you, will agree with me. Nikola Jovic is going to be my next person. The reason why is because I'm looking at value here and I'm also looking at skill set. He has a modern skill set. He can play multiple positions. Hopefully, he can guard multiple positions. Jury's still out on that. But I do think we've seen some measure of improvement defensively. It's also the contract. He has 1 year left on his rookie scale contract. He hasn't performed in a way where you're going to need to offer a crazy amount of money yet, which is the case, I think, for extending him now, because you could do it at a manageable, perhaps even Davion Mitchell-esque number, which for team building purposes would be very good, very useful, because if he outperforms that contract, then it's like, okay, I'm getting real value for somebody who is a starter or a sixth man or whatever he's going to be, seventh man, whatever. But like, if his contract is in Davion Mitchell territory, I think that's a win, considering I think he could easily outperform that if he stays healthy. It's weird in terms of how he's been utilized. Like sometimes he's just standing in the corner. Sometimes he's the secondary ball handler, which he should be. Other times he's not touching the ball at all. Sometimes he sits for too long. One game he's playing 16 minutes. Then he's playing 28 in closing. Then he's playing 14 minutes and getting 2 shifts. Like it's been kind of maddening. But I do think now that the organization can reset, first training camp without Jimmy Butler since 2018, I think that they will be able to incorporate him in different ways, assuming that he's back. I don't know if he starts or any of those things, but I think there's a strong case there for re-signing him at a manageable number. And I actually think if I'm him, I would consider signing it because of the injury history and just, having the long-term financial security. I think that would make a lot of sense. So we'll see if they actually do it. I'm skeptical that's the case. Probably very skeptical that they would do that now, which, listen, it could come back to bite them if he has a really good season and then that number jumps from maybe 12-ish, just throwing out a number, 12, 13 a year to like 18, 20 if he's really good this year and puts it together like the way I've been thinking he would even before the Heat drafted him, because I was high on him pre-draft. But I think he's somebody that you keep because I can see him playing in the playoffs with some of the teams that we're watching, especially from an offensive spacing and secondary ball handling standpoint.
Yeah, if he has the Franz Wagner leap eternal, then he's going to get more expensive. I'm keeping him. And I know we just did a whole episode on this, and I would try to extend him at a manageable number. I just think they need to figure out what to do with him. Like that's my thing, and I think we've all sort of discussed that. Eternal, I'm assuming. I mean, you've been the Jovic guy. I mean, the two of you were like, you're the Jovic guys. So I'm assuming Nico is being kept by you, Eternal.
Yeah, I think we saw what he was doing before he went out with the hand injury. Like Brian was saying, he didn't come off like he was supposed to, like they were expecting to start the season out of training camp after he earned that starting position again. They wanted to incorporate him more a little bit on the offense with some of the secondary ball handling responsibilities, include him in some more actions, but there was a expectation for rebounding and some of the other little things that they weren't getting out of Nico, which got him on the bench. But I think as the season went on, he kind of settled down into that 6-7 man role. And then you were starting to see more chemistry, more actions between him and Kel'el. And that was starting to grow before the hand injury. Now, of course, we saw just a little bit Ethan Bryan, in that game 2 when Nico closed in the playoffs. That's what you wanted to see, right? Like, I know everybody wanted to get in the high lottery, everything like that. They didn't do it. We can't cry over spoiled milk. But I do think after being on break for so long, and recovering from injury, for him to come in that game and have an impact, highest moment of his career, right? I think that kind of shows you a little bit of what you can get out of the player. And even in game 4, when they got swept, he was the only player on the court that gave a damn, right? Like that actually fought to the very end with his own play. Even, now you can account and say Cleveland probably wasn't giving the best of their efforts defensively, but he was doing his damnness to have an impact on the game. And I think going forward, as he has the, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but the Euro Cup coming up, right? Is that
Eurobasket starts in 2 months, a little over 2 months.
Right. And we can expect him to have a bigger role on the Serbian team, considering, how much time he's put in over there. So maybe you do see a leap from him just on different expectations because he wants to get paid. He hasn't proved everything that he feels like he can prove. And also he's going to come battle tested again from international play. And we know what that means for them playing for their home country.
Well, and we would have liked to have seen him get more of a role last year because he hurt himself before he went overseas, so we didn't really get to see it. Now we've arrived where we knew we would arrive.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at 27 minutes. Okay, Bam, Davion, Ware, and Jovic. Let me give you guys the rest of the roster so we can see who we're going to discuss here. Let's go backwards. Let's go backwards in terms of pay for next season. Keshad Johnson, Pella Larson, Jaime Jaquez, Kevin Love, Haywood Highsmith, Kyle Anderson, Duncan Robinson, Terry Rozier, Andrew Wiggins, and Tyler Herro. And you can only pick one. And I'm going to give you the biggest caveat of all time. So here we go. I've been prepping this the entire time. Okay. To me, it comes down to what he'll accept.
Tyler.
To me, it comes down to that because I cannot justify a max here. I cannot. But I also can't really justify not keeping the one guy who's developed into a plus offensive player in this build. So I'm having trouble kind of splitting the difference there because I think with the lack of offense that we've got in this group, which we do, Bam, Davion, Ware, and Jovic. I think Jovic is the most skilled offensive guy of the 4, but I don't know that they'll ever put him in a position where we'll see all of it. That's why, to me, I would be offering him, and we're talking about Tyler Herro, somewhere in the 3 for 110 range, which is a 25% raise, by the way. Okay. Just commensurate with his improvement, locks him up for 3 years in a place he wants to be, keeps him here until he's 28 or 29 years old where he can still earn an additional contract, protects him from his injury history because it gives him guaranteed money, but also gives the Heat a player who has developed into a pretty efficient scorer in this league, and we have seen how hard those are to find. He's also shown he'll work, which is something that you want to see. He cares. But I'll tell you this: if he's not willing to take that, and it's $50 million or bust, he's not one of my 5. Is that Brian? Is that because I'm gonna let Eternal marinate on that? But
Yeah.
is that fair? Go
So
ahead. You want to jump in? Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I got it, Turtle. I got it. I'm gonna let because
Okay. I mean,
people.
No,
people
I wanted you to go last on it.
People
So
are
I
gonna
get
get
it
on
out
your
the
ass
way.
right away. Let me just throw at Ethan a couple things.
okay.
Jalen Green agreed to a 3-year, $106 million extension last year.
Tyler's a better player than Jalen Green.
I get the sense that his agent is going to ask for a lot more than 106 million in total.
I get that he is. I'm not saying I get that he
So
is.
I think listen, if you tell me 3 for 110 is the number, sign me up. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like 3 for
Oh,
110
no,
is the
hold on,
number.
hold on. No, let me throw this back to Eternal. I say sign me up for that. Brian says sign me up for that.
Yes.
Eternal, you still not signing up for that, right?
Oh hell no, hell no,
Okay.
I got it.
hell no.
I got
I'll
look.
say I'll say this, Brian, and then you can take it. Right, I'm just gonna say this real.
Mhm.
We just talked about the Pacers, the Magic, all these Detroit, all these other teams. Right, Miami is now a young team for all their top players are young. Right. We just talked about Bam being a complementary number 2 piece, regardless of who you put next to him.
Mhm.
You don't have that same luxury with Tyler when it's Tyler by himself and it's Tyler and Bam, because so much
Right.
money will be tied up in them. Now you're trying to do so much wizardry around what the rest of the roster looks like around them to be competitive. Because what you want to do is be competitive. Forget just contention. You want to be competitive. So
Mhm.
what is the rest of the roster going to look like when so much money is tied up into players who don't have it at elite status on both ends, or have it so much elite status on one end, in particular for Tyler? And this is not a knock on him. In particular for Tyler, it'd be different if
Mhm.
Tyler was super elite on the other end and you got that in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You have to do so much to protect him and also
Yeah.
do so much to make the best of him on offense. I'm sorry, I cannot make the case.
What is? Let me just ask you this. What is your number for him? What is the? Because it's not going to happen because he's never going to accept it because he's not. It's not market value. Your number is not market value for him. Which again, I understand because we're talking about fit and playoff performance and some of that stuff. But we're talking about guys on the back end of their contract. He's not Devin Booker. Okay. I know there's been comparisons, but Devin Booker's going to be making $75 million at the end of that contract. So I'm essentially saying you're getting Tyler Herro for half the price. Okay. Like, is he half the player that Devin Booker is? I think he's at least half the player that Devin Booker is, right? So,
For
okay,
sure.
so now that goes to Brian's point that his agent is just going to say no. I mean, he's an all-star. Was Devin even an all-star this year?
I don't think so. I don't even. Who cares?
Was their record was so
Honestly,
I can't
but like,
remember.
I think. But here's the thing. Like for me, I guess I'm in between both. Where I'm like, it all depends on the number for me. Also, my number I think is going to be lower than what you would tolerate, Ethan. I feel like you're willing to go to 40. I'm not sure I'm there. I'm probably not there because as I'm watching the
No.
playoffs. And I'm watching. If I'm watching the playoffs and I'm watching playoff lineups, and I'm like, listen, this teams are still mismatch hunting. Teams are still putting the weakest defender in actions. Teams are still doing all these things to exploit the guys who are getting 30 on one side and giving it up on the other. Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. Like it just happens in every single playoff series. The Thunder are relentlessly attacking Tyrese Halliburton and making him work, and he's not like an awful, awful, awful defensive player. So I think if you're looking at market value, I don't know what it is. Like this is sort of the big question with me. I know like people understand who listen to this. Like I'm not the biggest fan of. It's not just Tyler Herro. It's really just one-way stars.
The archetype. There's an archetype of that type of guard,
Because
basically.
those aren't the guards who are winning at the end of the day. Derek White is the type of guard who is winning as a complementary piece who costs a lot less around stars on the wings or what have you. Like that's really what it is. Or the guard is like a Jaylen Brown who's a two-way player who's maddening at times, but at the same time, like he's a two-way guy who could play on both ends. And if you're looking at other contracts, so 110 by 3 is $36.6 million a year. The contract will probably start at a little bit under that because I don't think it's going to be a flat rate. Contracts tend to extend in the NBA. But regardless, if we're using 36,
could be descending too if you wanted to do that.
He
That's
ain't
what
taking.
Brunson was
He
done
ain't
with
taking.
Brunson.
He ain't taking a
No,
descending.
you're right. Well, that's fine. See, I would show him the Brunson contract, and I would say, okay, like, you want to win? Like,
I
this
think
is
a lot of
fair.
organizations are going to do that, and those players are going to be like, "Get the fuck out of here! I'm not doing."
Well, of course they are, but I mean, I'm just
like I want to get paid. They're not going to do that. But like with if you're starting at 36.6, that makes him 44th in terms of highest payroll as of now.
Let me stop you right there. Let me ask.
Pending Julius Randle, pending like other potential extensions that could be more, and in the area around him for next season would be Bam, Desmond Bane, James Harden, DeAndre Ayton, Jalen Suggs, LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Maxey, and Rudy Gobert.
Well, you had me at DeAndre Ayton. Yeah.
Let me stop y'all right there. Because Ethan, you funny as hell. And I'm gonna call this out right here. Because and I'm gonna ask you and Brian this, right? All you have to do is just tell me your answers. Yes. When it was the final 8 teams, who were the final 8 teams in the playoffs this season?
Indiana, New York, Cleveland, Boston, Oklahoma City, Denver. Are we getting quizzed on this later?
Denver, Minnesota, Golden State.
Golden State. Yeah.
When it was just final 4 teams, right? Mm-hmm. You guys did a whole podcast series of where Tyler would start on those teams. If he would start on any.
No, that's true. We did it on the final 4, and I said he'd start on 1. I don't know that Alex went quite that far. Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Here's the other thing. Yeah. If he agreed to 3-1-10, which is probably a non-starter discussion anyway, but since Ethan threw out the number, let's entertain it. It's also a tradable number. Like you can turn around and be like, hey, by the way, we have Tyler Herro on a manageable contract instead of hanging over somebody's head. By the way, if you trade for him, you're going to need to extend him too. And Lord knows where that's going to potentially go. I don't know. To me, he wasn't my 5th guy because I think the number that will be asked for is going to be much higher. Well,
that's kind of where I come down. All right, so let's do this as we close then, because if you're not, and again, I'm making I said Tyler with a caveat. It sounds like Brian's kind of close to me, but not quite there, and Eternal is nowhere near there. So let me ask. So let me ask you, Eternal, who would be your 5th on the current roster? Don't say Wiggins, because you cannot say Wiggins at $30 million if you're not willing to give Tyler 37. I'm sorry.
No, because it's a short-term deal if he wants to.
Yeah.
I mean, if Wiggins has showed anything of what we were expecting, then yes, the case could have been made that he is a complementary piece for a contending team or competitive team.
Right.
He didn't show anything. I tried
to make that case, but
but also to be fair to him, because TV did call me out on that. He did have the hamstring injury, which is very severe for players. But if I was to make a case, it would be Pella. It would be Pella.
I thought about that.
Just because he's
so Pella. I'm interested in this because you have been one who's been expecting a Hawkins bounce back when he gets healthy. So I was looking at Pella. I was looking at Hawkins. If you can resurrect it, although I don't know what his role would be, even if he does kind of break through here. And I was thinking also, honestly, Haywood, because you kind of know what you're getting there. But I mean, again, we got this no offense with the exception of Jovic. 5.
Well, the point is you're keeping 5. You would then try to trade the others.
I get it. I just feel like we're leading in here. It's just like
it's not like it's an expansion draft. We're like,
no, we're turning this team back to like 90s Knicks. Like we're lucky to get to 86 points. But I can make a case for Larson over Hawkins because I feel like with Larson, you're gonna plug and play. Like, I just feel like you can put Larson on the court right now for 15 minutes and not worry about him hurting you. Whereas with Hawkins last year, that was not the case. Like, I just don't know what I don't know what the end game is with him. Like, I like a lot of things about him, but he's obviously not mini Jimmy, and we thought he could be. And if they're going to make him trying to make him a lockdown defender, knockdown 3-pound shooter, I'm sorry, the 3-point shooting part I don't see. I mean, if he's going to be standing in the corner, But Turtle, you're saying Pella. Brian, who would be? And we do have to close this. So who would be your fifth if not Tyler? If you're just getting lean on the books here.
Yeah. Hopefully, ideally, whoever I get in a Tyler and Wiggins and
You
whatever.
can't do that. That's
You
more
know?
of a cop out than mine.
No. I'm saying, but what I'm saying is they would eventually fill that scoring spot, and not the person that I'm electing to keep. I would say Jaime Jaquez because I'm willing to see it through for another season on a rookie contract that is very, very NBA level cheap, that doesn't take off a big percentage of your contract.
Right.
I am worried, and I think it's very simple with Jaime Jaquez. If he can become a respectable 3-point shooter, he'll be fine. He'll have a role in the rotation. Maybe he'll go back to being a starting level player, starting caliber player, develop into it, whatever. There's a history of guys on the all rookie first team just going straight down and being nothing for the rest of their careers, or just going overseas, whatever. There's a history of guys on the all rookie first team who just continue to ascend. And there's a history of guys on the all rookie first team who after the second year, it's like, oh, wait, they regress. We should trade them. And then in the third year, it's like, oh, okay, there's Walker Kessler doing, having a breakout season after he dipped in his second year and was really good in his first year. And then we were wondering what happened. You know what I mean? Like that, those things tend to happen. And then in other cases, Jay Sean Tate was all rookie first team. And as much as I like him, that's as good as it's gotten. Kendrick Nunn was all rookie first team. And he's been awesome in Greece. I watched Eurobasket. I watched European basketball and also Eurobasket. And he's been awesome in Greece. He was MVP of the EuroLeague, but he's not in the NBA.
Right. Well, that's where his skill set goes right now. And again,
to me, it's all about, can Jaime Jaquez become a respectable 3-point shooter and be, respectable on defense as well. I still think there could be a pathway to both those things, but he has to really work at the shot because the shot is not falling.
All right. We're way over here. So Eternal, I know. So you're going with Larson. Let
me make this very clear. I still believe Jaime Jaquez can be a really good player in the league, and I think people are throwing him under the bus way too soon. The issue is from a team building from the front office, which is what the roles we're playing. If he doesn't show you something next season, his value drops even more, and it makes it hard to improve the team, which is why I'm picking Pella, right? Because I would expect Jaime to
you get an extra year there before you need to make decisions. Basically, what's
the best case scenario with Pella Larson? Is my question. Best case scenario.
I think he can be a top 8 rotation player who, again, plug and play off the bench. A lot of it with him comes out of the shot too, though. I like his finishing ability.
I could see him being more useful than Jaime Jaquez because he could spot up shoot.
Yeah, and I like the way he draws contact and finishes, whereas we saw Jaquez try to spin around it, through it. So I'm a little higher on Larson right now than I am on Jaquez, but we also saw more flourishes from Jaquez in his rookie season than we did from Larson. So
I'll take
we need to be fair there.
For now. No disrespect. No disrespect to Tyler Herro. All comes down to the number for me, because you have to build a team.
Me too.
And with the second apron, it's very, very difficult. So if he wants like 45, 50 million a year, can't do it. If it's in the mid to high 30s, I'm willing to listen.
37 or 38, I do it.
I was still trying to trade him after a year.
We're going to close on that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Brian. Thanks to Eternal. Check us out. We'll continue the conversation on Off the Floor. Have a good one, everybody.